So you guys, okay, so I have two questions, I guess. So don't let me forget my second one. But going back to kind of how you describe your sound, so you're like soul / cinematic pop, and you've really kind of grasped onto this genre for yourselves. Why do you identify so closely with that genre, and what does that like really mean to you, I guess?
Yeah, that good question. We get asked that every once in a while, and what it is we are really inspired by good films and good filmmaking, and a lot of that first album that we released, it would be me and Matt sitting down watching a movie for the first time, like Woody Allen, Annie Hall, watching things like The Graduate really had a big impact. And as soon as the movie ended and the credits started rolling, we had this feeling inside that we had to create and we had to write and make something. So we'd run down to the studio and we'd just start kicking out a new song. And it's also that
it's really hard to explain. It's like a true like building up anxiety in your chest. It's really bizarre.
Yeah. So yeah, films really inspire us, and the other half to it is that we're really excited about the possibilities of independent artists now making it on big motion picture soundtracks and making it on TV soundtracks and stuff. And we see ourselves fitting in with those moments, like in the movies, that give you the chills, or the really poignant moments in a film. We see ourselves fitting into that mold where the soundtrack, we're the background. So that's where the cinematic pop.
And I think, I mean, it's very obvious that you guys have a very full-bodied and full-fledged sound. So that's obviously what I think, like surround sound kind of HD kind of thing,
Yeah.
So I guess going off of that, are there certain songs that you've written that in your mind you associate with movies? Because I kind of want to go home and watch The Graduate now, and if you told me what song would correspond with that, I might also listen to that.
Let me think. What came from The Graduate?
Or do any of them sync up exactly like
Floyd? Ooh. One that I know for sure absolutely is Sharp as Knives. We wrote that after watching Edward Scissorhands, and if you listen to the soundtrack, it has a lot of the same movement and the chord changes that are in that song. So that's a definite sync.
Oh, Danny Elfman.
Danny Elfman, yeah, composed that soundtrack.
That is so interesting that you guys actually, like, that's your not necessarily your songwriting process, but that's kind of where it started.
The main
because I've never heard that from any band before, honestly, and I think that's so inspiring. I think that's very inspiring.
Did it take a long time to like come up with ideas, or like when you would initially watch a movie, would you try and make music and it just be not good, and then it took a long time to figure out exactly what you were trying to do after you were inspired by a movie?
Did you guys ever suck? No.
Every once in a while you get down there and you're trying at an idea and it doesn't get anywhere. But the way we write is we start an idea and then we sit on it and we keep coming back to it after practice until we mold it into this perfect thing that we want it to sound like. But we always try and think back to that initial moment, the initial direction we were going for right when we came down to the studio after the movie.
The most honest gesture.
Yeah.
Most saturated, honest thought is most important.
Yeah, first goal, first direction we were going for.
So, Matt, I know you're an artist, and I always like to ask this question to people. Have you thought about artwork for the new album yet? And if so, do you know who's going to be designing that?
Well, it's usually me and Garrett. It's a lot of like hours of arguing in front of a computer screen. But generally all of our artwork is derived from a bunch of old family film stills, 8mm film stills. And that's also a big component of our sound. We want to capture the warmth of 8mm film. And so the visual is also a very good counterpart. We're kind of interested in one picture in particular where it kind of shows like American youth and 1970s like.
So yeah, it might wind
like
up
America
on the next album. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, we have a couple favorite pictures that we're looking at now, but that's always an exciting part of the album.
And that was a very big part of North Coast Christmas too, was having that little kind of hint of nostalgia with that. So, I mean, could you kind of explain like where that inspiration came from for putting that little spice in there?
The song or the
album had the clips in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had actually the second track was my great grandpa. We found an old cassette tape of my great grandpa. He was an amazing harmonica player. He he was going to tour the world and all this stuff with his brothers, all playing harmonica in a harmonica band. And the wives said, "No, you're not. You're staying home." So they never did. But I remember growing up, he'd always whip it out on somebody's birthday, and he would whip out the harmonica on somebody's birthday. And he would play, and he was great. He had this thing where he would play the bass notes with his tongue and still have a melody going. It sounded like a full-fledged like orchestra coming out of his mouth. But
basically like a beatbox before there was beatboxing.
Yeah, that's what it is. Oh, okay, good
like
analogy.
Rango, what's his name?
Django Reinhardt?
Django Reinhardt. Sorry, I'm dyslexic. He's like the Django Reinhardt of harmonica playing.
Okay, yeah, but so our second track on our North Coast Christmas single was him playing the harmonica, and it was great. It had that whole old, warm family 8mm film feel that we had with the artwork, and it just continued that whole aesthetic. You know, and it kind of goes with our stage set too. It's all just this warm home feeling, and
I agree, Garrett.
Yeah.
And then speaking of the stage set, I was just wondering, do you have any other big plans to make, I don't know, a recliner or something?
That would be nice.
Just any other things that are just ideas in your head that haven't come to fruition yet?
Like we've thought about like couches and chairs and stuff, like Archie Bunker's chair, or maybe something like that, you know, with the television. But it's really hard to lug around all this stuff, you know? So if anybody is so inclined to volunteer their time,
we always can use an extra.
On our Facebook and drop us a message because we love you.
Yeah, roadies. We always could use some roadies.
No, roadies is demeaning. Like personal helpers that make everything happen for everybody.
How about just like best friends that are willing to lend a hand? I mean, I think that Chris could probably take on some more heavy lifting.
Oh yeah, buddy Chris is
entrusted him with.
Yeah, actually, let me just say on air right here, Brad Weber is our like head roadie, road head. He's absolutely the backbone of all of our getting everywhere, getting to our performances, getting our recording done. He helps out with everything. So I just wanted to shout out to Brad Weber,
aka DJ Oral B.
DJ Oral B, yeah. He's gonna start DJing pretty soon. So
he's really into the dubstep. These kids these days, you know.
Yeah.
Really into womp womp.
Let's see. Speaking of which, you were on my. Not all of you, but didn't you and Garrett come in for Guilty Pleasures once? Or was
that was
a
fun.
long time ago, right?
Yeah.
So if you missed that show, which I'm sure that you did, what are like some of your guys' guilty pleasures? We obviously heard like what a lot of your major influences were tonight: Johnny Cash, you know, Billy Corgan, all of those guys. But what is like a guilty pleasure that actually influences your music but is very bad?
Well, I'll say one.
Well, I don't think it's really bad, but people would think it would be a guilty pleasure. I am truly in love with Lady Gaga. I think she is a true artist and really is aware of her persona and a character, really solid performance artist and very catchy songwriter. And she writes all of her songs, writes songs for other people. So I think, you know, Lady Gaga, if you're out there, hit me up. I love
this
you.
Is, for the record, that's Matt talking about Lady Gaga. None of us.
This is Garrett.
No, that's not me. Mine is, I mean, is this guilty? I idolize Prince, man. He's a genius.
That's not guilty at all.
Some people might think it's guilty. I don't know.
Oh, no. What about, like, those 90s bands?
Okay, yeah. I'm in love with everything 90s. Gin Blossoms. Smash Mouth All Stars going to be played at my. It's going to be played at my wedding.
I'm like also very down that road. How do you feel about Everclear on a scale?
Oh,
1 to 10?
Everclear, they're all right. Yeah.
All right.
I give them a 6.
6. Okay. All right. Well, I think that kind of wraps up our interview. Do we have anything to play after this for the next week's
We have more
band?
music, but once again, if people are interested in hearing you guys, where should they go? If they're interested, themodernelectric.com. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. More friends we have, the more special we feel. So, and then your next show is going to be happening when and where?
Akron Musica, January 27th, and then immediately after that, February 18th at the Bright Winter Fest. That's our calendar right now.
The Garage Bar
at
10 p.m.
All right. So thank you guys very, very much. We really
thank
appreciate you guys being on the show.